Boom. Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to PokeMarketLab. We're doing an 8-month set update today on one of the best sets in all of Scarlet and Violet, and certainly one of my favorite sets, Surging Sparks. And maybe we'll talk about a giveaway later in the video. If that sounds good to you, stay tuned and welcome to PokeMarketLab. All right, before we get going, a little bit of housekeeping. Would love your subscription, a like, a comment. Would love if you checked out Sleeved TCG, link in the description below. This is a Discord community as well as in-stock notification alerts. But PokeMarketLab, everyone, every Discord has free in-stock notification alerts. No, they are not free. They go through affiliate links, multiple affiliate URLs. And what that means is delays. You are trying to keep up with bots. You need to go from that link to be able to purchase quickly without going through any other websites, any other URLs. That is Sleeved TCG. So you're paying up front, but you're getting that speed and you're trying to compete with bots at the end of the day. Again, check out Sleeved TCG. All right, let's talk about Surging Sparks here. One of my favorite sets. If you've been around the channel any period of time, you know how I feel about this set. What we do here, we do periodic updates, look at what's happening with the sealed product, look what's happening in the singles market. Some interesting things on this set. 8 months, not a huge update here in terms of time, but I think it's interesting to see. There's a few different data points we're going to look at here that I think are interesting. So with that, let's get into the meat of it. I want to just start off by saying the look and feel of this set is fantastic. It just not even just from a card imagery standpoint, card artwork standpoint. The box design, Pikachu, yes, you can say what you will about the crowns. Pokemon Center ETB, we'll talk about that, but just all around, even the logo, it's just compare it to like a Paldea Evolved. This is it's a fantastic logo. And the box art, all that stuff, we don't talk about that a lot. We talk about a lot of other subjective things, but box art matters. It matters from a collectible standpoint. It matters when we're just playing things. And this is a set that has it in spades. Let's talk a little bit about the history of Surging Sparks. Not all of you were maybe around when Surging Sparks came out. Maybe you're new to the hobby. Maybe you're new to Pokemon, whatever. This set very much this was the first set that came out above that, I want to say $120 price point. So leading up to Surging Sparks, just to give you a little bit of a history lesson, 151 was kind of taken off. 151's very much has almost always done its own thing versus the rest of Scarlet and Violet. So a little bit of a different situation there. Twilight Masquerade had started to gain traction. So I don't want to say Surging Sparks started at all. It wasn't. Twilight Masquerade post-release, it released at a low price, but post-release, like released below MSRP, but post-release it started to climb. Surging Sparks pre-ordered for about $100 a box, and then as we got close to that November 7th release date, we started getting, there was two things that were happening in combination. Surging Sparks, we were getting previews on, we had previews on Surging Sparks, and it started to rise. We were starting to get previews on Prismatic, and those two things together just set the market ablaze, in addition to what we were seeing on Twilight Masquerade. And I'm pretty sure, we'll look at the chart here in a minute, but Surging Sparks released, it's the most expensive box to be released, booster box to be released in Scarlet and Violet. It hit, I think it was released right about that MSRP price. Again, don't quote me on that, but my dollar cost average on this, I loaded up the truck on this. Again, if you've been around the channel any period of time, you know my convictions on this set. It's actually, this set really is what helped start the channel. It was when I always had opinions on the market and everything, but Surging Sparks was when I was trying to put the word out there. And I don't know if anyone's still listening from, the start of the channel, but I was like, hey, that was one of the things I was saying, screaming from the rooftops, buy on this. Because again, the market we have now was not in existence. So you could get absolutely, even though it was started, the secondary market price started to rise, there were absolutely opportunities to get this box at $100, $110 a pop. I backed the truck. I won't say exactly what I have, but I backed the truck up on this set. I've liquidated a little bit here just to lock in some profits, but I have a pretty large collection of this. So that's kind of my take on the history of it. This is very important if we're going to talk about the current Pokemon market, which is it's churning tens of millions of dollars a week in terms of products. Secondary market, Facebook Marketplace, Target, Walmart, all these places. You have to talk about Surging Sparks. So let's get an update on this really important pillar set for Scarlet and Violet. Let's of course look at the Pokemon Center ETB first. Everyone knows, the magic with the Pokemon Center and the ETB and the promos and everything. This is a particularly fantastic box. So this box checks literally every box there is in terms of what I want to see in a really awesome collectible that has a ton of future potential on it. You have, let's see, you got scarcity. Obviously, we're seeing that here on the screen. TCG Player, 57 boxes listed. You're not going to see these from Pokemon Center again. You have amazing box artwork. You get Pikachu on there. Again, say what you will about the crown. It's Pikachu. Fantastic logo. You have obviously an awesome set. You're getting exposure to the set. Fantastic promo, that Magneton at $42. The artwork on that promo is from Shinji Kanata, and that's the same artist that did Magikarp from Paldea Evolved, Greninja from Lost Origin, and so many other pieces. So just, and I think I actually think that Magneton is probably underpriced at this point, considering what we're seeing here left for sealed boxes. That's a beautiful, beautiful card. I think you could absolutely spike up. And again, I don't speculate in singles, but it feels to me, my gut instinct on that is that it's underpriced. TCG Players chart here is broken, but we're sitting at about $185. I think that feels underpriced to me as well, given what this is. I just don't think we've had enough time behind this. Again, I cannot imagine a world where we get reprints on this. Anything could happen, but just please hold on to these. This has a very, very bright future. Certainly prized in my collection here. The price here up here, I apologize, is not correct. $185 is the market price, and we've seen about a 4% increase in the last 3 months. All right, regular ETBs. This one is surprising to me in a couple different ways. So again, you have Pikachu on the box. I do wish that they did different, drastically different artwork from the Pokemon Center ETB to the regular ETB. These have been scarce. And I've said this before, it's been very weird in Scarlet and Violet. Maybe not so much with Destined Rivals and Journey Together, where we seemed like we had more ETBs. We just did not. The earlier Scarlet and Violet up to, I would say, Surging Sparks, just the ETB volume in the market's just been so low. We've seen a little bit, a few of these pop up here and there, but I would not call them, I'd call them maybe restock waves. They certainly don't feel like reprint waves. They just don't seem big enough. This is a $100 regular ETB for a set that's less than a year old. And so, where are the reprints on these? It's just been scarce. And we'll talk about where I think, again, I've mentioned it many times before, I think the Pokemon Company's doing this on purpose. I just think there's bigger fish to fry in terms of printing booster boxes, doing bundles instead. We've seen a ton of premium collections and sticker collections and binder collections instead of ETBs. And I don't, I used to think that it was a supply chain thing and just, hey, it's just cheaper to produce bundles. But again, for a lot of these products, for a lot of sets, we're seeing a ton of these other miscellaneous collections, which goes against what I initially thought. And again, I try to look at my own judgment on things and my own thinking on things and challenge it sometimes. I hope you do too. I hope you listening challenges your beliefs on things. I fully expect and appreciate folks in the comments challenging me on things. I think it's important from just a thought process standpoint and being, trying to be as correct as we can and challenge our assumptions on things. I used to think they were printing the bundles because the storage space to store them from a retail standpoint was small, and the supply chain side on this was easy. It's really just cardboard. Versus an ETB, you get the dice, you get all this other stuff. So I'm still kind of racking my brain on why we're not seeing ETBs. For a while now, I thought that it was, hey, all the effort's going into bundles, booster boxes, things like that. You don't have to worry about dice and card sleeves and all this other crud that comes with an ETB. But we're also seeing a ton of other products for all these other sets, these other miscellaneous products, these accessory pouch collections from Prismatic Evolutions. We're seeing tech sticker collections, binder, poster collections, all these other products that have a bunch of junk in them, that have supply chain costs, supply chain constraints, all those things. Everything needs to be 100% to produce that product. I mean, all those parts and pieces that the Pokemon Company doesn't manufacture, right? They have someone else manufacture. They have to have all those things versus a booster bundle. And so I thought for the longest time, hey, they're just putting the effort into the booster bundle because they're trying to catch up. But we're seeing all this other crap. So again, I'm trying to challenge my own convictions here, and I urge you to, and hopefully these videos do, and I hope all you folks do challenge me in the comments below. And that's why I do want to start a Discord here soon, because I want to have those more higher level conversations that we can't have in the comments about this type of stuff. Because at the end of the day, if we can figure this stuff out, we can try to make moves on this and benefit ourselves again from a collection or financial standpoint. So Again, we just haven't seen many of these out in the wild. I have not seen one out in the wild. I've not seen a lot of people grab them out in the wild. That's represented here in the price and the availability of these. Again, less than a year old, less than 300 here, 101 bucks. Fantastic set. You're paying a premium. You're paying a premium versus the booster box, which is kind of crazy. So, are we going to get reprints on these? Yeah, I would like to tell you we would. I fully expect it. We're well below the 2-year mark on this, but we just haven't seen them yet. And then looking at the booster box here, there's a couple things I want to talk about in this. It's very flat from a price standpoint, sitting at $242, which is surprising in a way because there's so much supply here. More supply than any other booster box. Yes, any other booster box on TCG Player from Scarlet and Violet, and obviously Sword and Shield. 1,200 boxes. We saw a pretty hefty reprint on this, a substantial reprint on this, and that supply has not done anything really to move price. We're still flat. The liquidity on this is still extremely good. Average sell rate of about 14 per day over the last 3 months. You can see some spikes there, but very consistent. And I think it's a beloved set. I think that's something that, again, we have a hard time quantifying with data here, but I don't think that's necessarily a subjective thing. I think it's a beloved set. I think it's a ripped set, heavily ripped set. Streamers have gotten a hold of this. Rip and shippers have gotten a hold of this. And I think it's just, surprising to see 1,300 boxes listed here. No one's fighting over price. And it's holding up extremely well. The question is, of course, can it hold up at this rate for a long time with other pressures here? And again, we keep going back and forth on, are we going to see a pullback in the market? The summer slowdown has not caused any pullback any appreciable pullback in sealed that I can see. So sellers are fine waiting to sell product. They're not tripping over each other to sell booster box to sell any sealed at this point, because it sells. If they want to, they can push on the price. If I listed this at $235, this would sell probably within a couple of hours. I could sell it at market price within probably 24 hours. There's just no need. There's no rush. And I think the part of this, trying to figure this out, because I've always thought, obviously it's a strong market. It's a confident market. And I think we're at the point here where the market's gone on long enough that this is not a temporary thing, that people are assuming it's going to continue on. Why not? I mean, we're essentially 8 months into an extremely hot market here. And so I think that confidence, the experience in the sellers, I think is to the point where, again, no one has to trip over themselves. So we're going to do a separate video on this, but quick kind of supply chain discussion here on what I'm talking about. So what we would typically see happen is if we have a lot of supply, like we're seeing, this is a quick kind of visualization that you can see. And again, I'm going to do a separate video on this. If we have a ton of supply, this is what would typically happen. That supply would grow. This is how I've always visualized this. Supply on top of demand with price kind of squished in between. So supply inflates, what happens? Not enough demand to push back on that, so that price starts to shrink. And so we have a ton of demand, a ton of supply on Surging Sparks booster boxes, but the demand is such that, again, it's pushing and squeezing. I know that's kind of shrinks there, but it pushes and squeezes everything to a point of equilibrium. And that's when you see a very steady market price on TCG Player, that is an equilibrium between that supply and demand. There's other things going on. There's human psychology. And remember, there's human psychology not just on the buy side, but also on the sell side as well. Again, if people lose that confidence, I can guarantee you that price is going to shift, and it's going to shift pretty quickly. And that's always been a concern of mine. And that's a huge risk I see going into, when we go into not going into the fall, going into the summer for sure. Going into fall, I think we're going to see buyers come back. What happens? We got a pretty, I would say, not great job report last Friday. What happens from an economic standpoint? There's still pressures there with inflation. And now jobs, it's been very robust. But again, all these things probably are worth a separate video, but I want to do just a quick visualization there for everyone. All right, now on to booster bundles, sitting at a very healthy $42 per. We've seen quite a few of these available. Target, Walmart. I'm not saying freely available, but I snagged a couple at Target a couple weeks ago online using sleeved. So this is possible, and we are seeing, I think, the result of reprints on this. This is, I think, one of the products that I think they are focusing on reprints from a reprint standpoint on booster bundles. We've seen that with 151. Again, not across the board on every set, but we're certainly seeing it in Surging Sparks. 2,300 of these listed. We've actually lost 8% in price of this over the last few months. If you are speccing on booster bundles, I would urge you to be careful. We do not know. We know in Scarlet and Violet, yes, their price, some of them are pretty expensive compared to what we, should be able to get them at. Just look at 151. However, we don't know from a collectability standpoint. This is on the bottom of the totem pole. This does not hold a candle to a PC, ETB, a booster box, anything, but this is a great way, obviously, to crack. These will appreciate, right, for sets, for really good sets. But I'm going to argue, again, that they're going to print the bejesus out of these for a lot of sets. We've seen it already. We've seen it with Prismatic. We've seen it with 151. I think we're going to see it moving forward. I think there's opportunity for them to go back and print some bundles for some older sets as well. So just do not, again, this is, we're in a predicament now where we can't choose what we get, right? Unless we want to pay secondary market rates. What do we get at the end of the day? And sometimes it's just booster bundles. If you're going to pay MSRP, if you draw that line in the sand, it's going to be bundles. I know I've been getting way more premium collections, tech sticker collections, all that kind of stuff, versus booster boxes, because that's what's available to me, right? So just keep that in mind from a long-term standpoint. This should be right up here, but we have lost 8% on this. Nothing to really write home about, again, other than the volume of these hitting the market. Reminder on SAV score, we're going to look at some comps here now. Reminder, what we do here with the SAV score, this takes into account set value, it takes into account box price, and it takes into account age to kind of show a comparison across versus other products. And so this is the quick math here. And when we get over 2 years old, we get a bit of a boost on that age, right? Because we're hitting that point where it's not necessarily a magical line in the sand regarding reprints, but it does matter. We do want to take that into account. So if we look at some comps here, we're going to do Twilight, Journey Together, Surging, and we're going to go a little bit earlier into the Scarlet and Violet set and look at Paldea as well. And I think from a standpoint here, let's look at Twilight on the left-hand side. Journey, maybe not a fair assessment, a fair comp here. On the SIV score, higher is going to be better. Right? Remember, it's a comparison of all those different factors. So we want low booster box price matters, high set value. We want high set value. We want high age, and it's taking all those things into account. So Paldea is the better buy technically here if you're just looking at this raw score. Again, it has the age, which is really boosting it up. It has age. It's got an expensive box, which is a negative, but it has a really good set value for its age. So if you look at something like Obsidian Flames, where it's about $250 a box, you do not have that set value of age, but you don't have the set value. So Paldea, obviously quite expensive, the most expensive booster box right now in all of Scarlet and Violet, but obviously, again, has the set value, has the age. Surging Spark, still, I think, again, incredible set. I think it's a better set than Paldea, personally. The set value has been slashed pretty heavily. We're going to look at that here in a second, but the booster box price still being affordable, and I think possibly giving you some opportunity to pick some of those booster boxes up in the future. If we do see, I've talked about this before, a hard shift in the market once we get into the fall with Mega Evolutions and Scarlet and Violet's kind of in the rear view mirror. Does that focus change hard enough that we see, a drop in demand on some Scarlet and Violet things, which I think could be good. It could be risky with certain things like Surging Sparks with that many booster boxes on the supply side. They're going to want to, there's going to be, again, if that confidence gets eroded pretty quick, if we start losing that demand and that supply side of what I showed you earlier, the demand side of what I showed you earlier starts to drop in strength, then that pressure from the supply side is going to push that booster box price down. All right, let's look at that set value now. So set value back in May for Surging Sparks was about $1,300. We're sitting at $1,091, 18% reduction in the last few months. That's not, I don't want to say that's, I probably should have compared that with a couple other sets to see. Every set has taken a pretty good hit in set value in the last few months. Every set post-release typically takes a set value hit. I think this set, again, we're going to look at some numbers here in a second, I think is heavily ripped. I think it's just a beautiful set, which is a good thing. We want that, right? We want people to enjoy. I know myself, I've had a great time ripping. I did pull that Pikachu. So obviously, subjectively, I had a great time with this set. This is a great chart here. So what we're showing you here is just all the value of the top 20 cards, and we want to see what the distribution and pricing looks like. And this is a great one because you have a couple of chase cards, I would call it. You have that Pikachu, you get Latias, Melodic, that other Pikachu, that hyper rare. So you got a really good mix in this set, and then it gets great all the way down to the cheaper cards as well. So there's a really good number. Like if I'm looking at looking through the artwork in this set, there's just so much to like, which I think is super important. Like Skarmory, there's just again, going back to what happened when we started getting the previews on the set, I was excited just constantly, day after day. We're getting those previews, really excited with this set. And I think it's just beautiful through and through. And again, you have that high chase card, high price. You get a second in line, a second chase card that's over 150, which I think is important. So it's not just Pikachu or bust. There's plenty of value in the other SIRs. So again, that mix to me, I think is important. I think that just makes a really good set. And again, if we're, investing in stuff, we want to invest in best of breed. I want my collection to have best of breed, and I think this is a top 4 in the 4 horsemen, if we were so to call it, in the Scarlet and Violet era. I went ahead and pulled some additional data here regarding graded cards. I wanted to show and represent, just from a ripping standpoint, how heavily this set was ripped, and it's up there with some of the best in Scarlet and Violet. We're going to do a separate video on this, but if we look at gemrate.com, we can see at least 17,000 of these Pikachus submitted for grading. That doesn't mean they're all unique, so I will give you that. But again, I think the scope of what we're talking about is still accurate here, even if the numbers aren't perfect. But this represents somewhere in the order of about 16 million packs ripped. And obviously it's way higher than that, because not all of these are getting to grading. So just the point being, heavily ripped set, ripping shippers, all that kind of stuff, all the streamers and everything, really heavy into the set. I think it's not just sitting on shelves, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. So that represents about $83 million of packs, if assuming $5 a pack, which I think is pretty crazy. And we can kind of compare this to some other sets. It's right up there with some of the best of Scarlet and Violet. Magikarp from Paldean Evolved, over 18,000. Greninja from Twilight, 15,000. And of course the king of grades of graded cards in all of Scarlet and Violet, Charizard EX number 199 from 151, with over 71,000 submitted. So talking about ripped packs to get cards to send into grading was a separate video again on that. So we're going to talk about 151, because I think that's a massive number. So again, I just wanted to throw some comps out there. And then let's get into the singles. We always look at the top 6 singles from the set, just see how they're doing, see what the performance looks like. I don't think I'm going to get into too many details here, because across the board, again, it's just down. We saw some resilience in the top expensive cards in the set for a while, but there's just been so much pressure. Again, with, I think, ripping demand. Obviously, there's certainly demand here as well, but I think there's just the supply on the market. Just we've seen a big pullback in single cards. Again, nothing. I don't want to say it's a crash or anything like that, but I think this is the way it's been going for the last 6 months or so since its release. So really nothing crazy here. Let's go on to the next page. Pikachu, that hyper rare there. Same thing. We're just losing quite a bit of value across the board here. And then that brings us to the end of this update, where we kind of look at the set value. We kind of give my overall opinions. Obviously, I love this set. It's fantastic. It's a great ripping experience. I think it checks just about every box I can think of in terms of what I want to sit on my shelves for a long period of time for my enjoyment and to increase in value, which is what I want at the end of the day. I do not want to, if I try to avoid getting things, I try to get exposure to everything, but I really try to focus on the things that I love. I was very lucky to be able to load up on this set, and I still dollar cost average as I can get opportunity to do so, but not in booster boxes, but ETBs, bundles, just loose packs, things like that. So I open it every chance I get, and it's just going to sit on my shelves for a long period of time. So obviously this is going to be an A- set. And a reminder on these ratings, this is more of a vibe than anything. This can change at any given day. It's just completely subjective. There is no scale that I use to rate. I could rate Surging Sparks 5 different times on 5 different days and give you a different answer. It's just how I'm feeling today. But this is certainly an A or S tier set for me. It's one of my favorites, one of the best things I've ever opened. But again, I pulled Pikachu, so of course I think that, right? Reprint risk, I think, is pretty high on this set. I think there's the amount of product in the market is pretty healthy. I think the Pokemon company's done an actually pretty good job on trying to go back to the well and reprint this. We just don't know if we're going to see those ETBs again. I'm still struggling with the ETB thing, because we're seeing a high number of ETBs for sets that are being released. We saw it with Journey Together. We even saw it with Destined Rivals. That wasn't enough to quelch the demand side of things, but we're still seeing sets like Paldean Fates that just no reprints of ETBs hitting the market, none, like whatsoever. And those boxes continue to climb, and they're not old enough to not be reprinted at this point. So I'm just having a hard time. And again, going back to all these other collections and binders and poster stuff. So again, there's junk in those things. So maybe what I've thought about, earlier in terms of them focusing on things that just don't cost them as much money from a supply chain standpoint, maybe that doesn't hold true. I'm just, again, struggling try to understand why we're not seeing ETBs. because we're seeing some somewhere, but not others. So maybe they're coming. Maybe it's just a massive. Maybe they're just trying to keep up with these new sets. Maybe that's probably a more reasonable assumption at this point. Is we're seeing a lot of ETBs and new sets because we need it. We need it to hit the market on release day to get in the hands of people who enjoy it. And who want to rip it and have fun with the product and players and all that stuff. And they're just not having, they don't have enough bandwidth or supply chain to go back and do it for other sets yet. So again, maybe that's the more reasonable take at this point. But I would still say ETB reprints high. I would still say booster box reprint high. I don't know that the demand signal from the markets that we need more booster boxes right now, but it's still within reprint window at this point. I think a fair price target on the ETB is probably between 225 and 275. The reason I gave it that is I think it has struggled a little bit in price range between 225 and 250. So I think 225 if the market goes south a little bit, and I think it could march up to 275 if it would just continue further. Again, that 1,300 pieces sitting on TCG Player is like just that's so surprising to me that that it's no one's trying to move it. Like and not to say they're not trying to move it, but there's no rush to move it, because again, I think we're at a different point in this market, especially in the summertime here, where even with this, we've proven that the amount of spend has dropped off for a reason, and no one's losing their crap over it. No one's worried at this point. So very interesting to see. So I hope you enjoyed our update on Surging Sparks, one of my favorite sets. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. We are going to do a giveaway on this video, rip and ship giveaway. I should have talked about it earlier. I think I mentioned giveaway, but we are going to do what we do with the rip and ship giveaway is you just comment below, make sure you're a subscriber, hit that like button. In a couple days, I'll randomly choose a comment. We'll pull it, and we'll get you signed up for a rip and ship where we give a pack. We're going to do Scarlet and Violet base pack, where any hits from there you get, and we put a video on YouTube Shorts. So, and of course, let me know what you think in the comment section below this video. Any comments, any feedback, any thoughts. I love having conversations with people. All of you are extremely smart, and you guys are always challenging me and bringing up new topics that give me stuff to talk about in these videos. So with that, we'll see you on the next one. PokeMarketLab out.